Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So yeah, I guess you can call this a boxing news video. Dillian Whyte's comeback has been announced for the 26th of November at Wembley Arena. He will be returning against unbeaten US heavyweight Jermaine Franklin. Now the unfortunate thing here is that this fight, this card, falls on the same day as John Ryder versus Zach Parker, and I have to say I will be prioritising that fight over this one. But regardless, Dillian Whyte returns on the 26th of November against Jermaine Franklin, and of course Dillian Whyte is coming off that loss against Tyson Fury, where he was very uninspiring, to say the least. You know, all of that belly aching for years about his WBC title shot, and that is the effort in which he put forth. I mean, left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, to be honest with you, but regardless, Dillian Whyte is back, and I anticipate him winning this fight, and winning this fight quite comfortably, to be honest with you. Jermaine Franklin has a flashy record of 21-0 with 14 knockouts. Looks great on paper, but in regards to the resume, he's beaten absolutely nobody of note, and in fact, he's had one fight in the last 3 years, and that was against Rodney Moore on the 7th of May 2022. Rodney Moore having a record of 20 wins, 21 losses, 2 draws. That was the only fight he's had in 3 years. The last fight before that was the 5th of October against journeyman Pavel Sauer, and you know, he went the distance in that fight. Pavel Sauer, a guy Hughie Fury knocked out in a round or two. So that really goes to show the level of Jermaine Franklin. The best win on Jermaine Franklin's resume is against Jerry Forrest. Jerry Forrest being a very competent gatekeeper in the heavyweight division. In fact, he gave Michael Hunter and Zhilei Zhang real problems. In fact, many people believe that he won those fights. And yeah, Jermaine Franklin has a win over him, but upon watching that fight, I felt Jerry Forrest won, to be honest with you. Bit of a robbery, so yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that. Jermaine Franklin is an orthodox heavyweight, not the biggest guy in the world at 6'2". He's sloppy, he's relatively slow, cumbersome, doesn't have the biggest punch in my opinion. And yeah, I can't really see him giving Dillian Whyte that many issues. I know Dillian Whyte these days is more than likely on the slide. His chin is getting worse, but I think Dillian Whyte will just be a bit too robust, a bit too rough, a bit too strong, a bit too powerful for Jermaine Franklin. And listen, if Dillian Whyte wants to be taken seriously as a contender, I think he should be knocking out Jermaine Franklin. Again, I mean, it's a comeback opponent, so I'm not being too harsh on the opponent's selection. But again, if Dillian wants to be a factor, needs to win this fight by knockout, and he needs to look good doing it. So, I mean, that's what I'm expecting from Dillian Whyte. Whether we get that or not, we shall see. Maybe Jermaine Franklin ups the levels and shows us something that he's not shown us previously. We shall see. I can't really see it though, to be honest. What I will say though, there are a couple of good fights on the undercard. Craig Richards is returning to the ring after his defeat to Joshua Buatsi, and he is fighting another former Buatsi victim in Spelotniks. Now, Spelotniks actually has beaten British domestic light heavyweights in the past, such as Hosea Burton. He also beat Stephen Ward as well. You know, Spelotniks, in my opinion, is a pretty good European level fighter. Good high guard, respectable power, good jab. He's quite one-paced, but he does do the basics well, and yeah, he's got good solid basic fundamentals. So, you know, he's going to be one of those guys who sticks around. He'll slowly up the pace round by round. And yeah, I think that'll be an interesting fight between Craig Richards and Spelotniks. I would favour Richards. Richards is a bit more loose, a bit more languid, more active with the jab. and more active in general with his punch output. But I expect Spelotniks to give Craig Richards problems. And yeah, I think it will go to the distance, but it'll be a good fight to watch in my opinion. But another fight on the undercard, and arguably the most interesting fight on the undercard, is Fabio Wardley versus Nathan Gorman. Now this is for the vacant British heavyweight title. Now to me this looks like a good fight on paper. The only caveat I would add is that that is providing that Nathan Gorman actually trains for this fight, because as we know, against Daniel Dubois, he turned up in horrible shape, as he's done in numerous other fights in his career. Nathan Gorman's never going to be a body beautiful heavyweight, but he needs to up his conditioning. He needs to take the sport more seriously, because again, I know he had personal problems, but the reality is, this is boxing, you know, you're supposed to be a professional athlete, and the state he turned up in against Dubois was nothing short of a disgrace, and he's done that on more than one occasion in his career. If he's going to take it seriously, now is the time. It's a big fight for him on a big card, a lot of attention, vacant British heavyweight title on the line. He needs to train because, you know, he does have the experience advantage. He's had more fights, he's had more amateur fights, and arguably he is better technically, and he needs to make that count. Fabio Wardley, on the other hand, he is the quicker guy. I would say he's more athletically gifted. I'm also tempted to say he's a bigger puncher, and he's also taller and longer. Fabio Wardley in this fight needs to make the most of those physical attributes, but he needs to do it in smart fashion, you know. Fabio Wardley started boxing very late, I think in his late teens, early 20s, and you can tell that, but you can tell that in his style. The reason he's got to where he's got to is that athletic ability. But he needs to take a bit more care with Nathan Gorman, because Gorman can time you with that left hook of his, and Fabio Wardley has a horrible habit of backing up with his chin in the air. Sometimes he'll exchange square on and really take risks. He's not been caught out for it yet, but against a sneaky guy like Nathan Gorman, he needs to be aware of those defensive deficiencies. But again, that's down to whether Gorman actually trains for this fight. So yeah, on paper this is a good fight, but it depends I think a lot of it depends on how Gorman turns up, to be honest. We shall see. We shall see. I'm tempted to make Fabio Wardley a favourite here, just because at least I know he'll train properly. But I will need some more time to think about this one, because I do think Nathan Gorman technically is better. I think he's technically better. But again, we shall see. We shall see. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's shaping up to be a decent card. I am interested in Spelotniks versus Richards, and I am interested in Fabio Wardley versus Nathan Gorman. The Dillian Whyte fight is what it is. You know, coming off a loss, that is what it is, you know. That is what it is. But the two fights on the undercard, I am looking forward to. What about you guys? Share your thoughts below. What do you think of the main event, Dillian Whyte versus Jermaine Franklin? And what do you make of the undercard for fights I mentioned? Share your thoughts below. Peace.